Thank you, everyone. My name is Holly Fiorello. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for CallPotential. Today, we're going to talk about our best practices to maximize your marketing dollars. And we are very blessed today to have these three marketers with us. They've been in the industry for, I would say together, we've probably got almost 50 years, 40, 50 years in marketing experience if you total it all up. Very different backgrounds. So I'm going to let them all introduce themselves and a little bit about, their position in marketing and their specialty. So I'm just going to go counterclockwise from how I see everyone. So Melissa, would you like to go first, please?
Sure. Thanks, Holly, and thanks, CallPotential, for having me. Melissa Stiles with Storage Asset Management. We're a third-party management company that specializes in self-storage. We have over 500 locations and operate in 37 states, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer.
Great. Christina?
Hello, thank you so much for having me, and thanks to CallPotential and Holly. So I'm Christina Alvino. I am the founder of FineView Marketing. We are a full-service digital marketing agency focusing on building websites and marketing strategies for owner-operators in the storage space. And I've been in storage for 12 plus years and ran marketing and operations for a couple of large operators prior to starting FineView.
Wonderful. And Miss Grace?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Grace Totty. I work with Absolute Storage Management as their Vice President of Marketing and Sales. I've been in the industry for 10 years, been focused only on marketing or only in marketing for about probably 7 of those 10 years. Got my start in operations, and so come from kind of that operations viewpoint and then managing kind of our marketing strategies. We have about 135 properties in 16 states. And so I oversee a team that looks at each of those properties and their unique needs and puts together a strategy and a plan to accomplish the goals set by either ourselves as Absolute or the owners of the property.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, ladies, for the introduction. We're going to be sending out their contact information out following this webinar. If you'd like to get in contact with them, or feel free to look them up directly on LinkedIn. If you have any questions as we're going through these, please, by all means, put them in the Q&A section. We are going to be monitoring chat, but sometimes it's just a little bit easier if we separate them that way. But so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. So just to kind of start marketing, your day is starting, you're looking to make a plan. What are the top key performance indicators, KPIs, that each of you start your day with? Day, week, or month? I'll let you, if anybody wants to go first. All right. Then we'll go Grace.
I don't mind. So the way I was kind of thinking of this question is when a supervisor comes to me and says, this property is underperforming, can you help me? Or this property is not meeting metrics, can you help me? The things I look at, and there's either like a top to bottom perspective or a bottom to top. And so the funnel that I look at is search interest. And so that's kind of top funnel. And that is basically, what is Google telling me people are interested, the trend of interest in storage. So are people more interested in storage this month versus last month, or are people more interested, less interested this month over last year? So looking month to month and year over year. That kind of gives me a guide of how many eyeballs should be on my website, because if there are fewer people interested in storage, then naturally my website would have fewer eyeballs. And so that just kind of puts into perspective the next level, which is website views. And then the next level is how many of those eyeballs, so website views, are converting into leads. That's my third kind of piece of the puzzle that I look at. And then ultimately rentals, which is a factor of the leads that I'm sending to the property, how many of those are actually converting into rentals. And so those are like the big KPIs that I look at. And then from there, if anything looks out of whack, then you dig into it. Because if your website views are are much lower or much higher than that Google trend, then you can start to research why is that. And there's different things to dig into there. Or likewise, if the eyeballs, the website views aren't converting into leads, like dig into that. That's a big piece to dig into and understand why. And so that's kind of my point of view, is how to identify where to start digging in. What about you, Christina or Melissa? What are your KPIs?
So ours are very similar, but it's typically, so what I look at weekly, monthly, daily is a little different than what like I would look at for an owner operator. So if somebody comes to me and tells me that one of their locations, we need to take a deeper look, there are a couple of things I look at which are very similar to you. Like I look at website traffic, I look at the number of leads that are coming in, and then what's getting converted to rentals, so that I can kind of figure out where in the process there's that broken piece that we need to address. So that's, I'm kind of looking at that overall picture, and then even looking at occupancy to see if occupancy is trending up and down at a store, because it could be that the website it needs to be adjusted and it's not driving enough traffic. It could be that the calls are coming in, but maybe there are a lot of missed calls for some reason. So we're looking at call trends. Or it could be that, those leads and calls are getting answered, but they're not getting converted to rentals. So does that then become a sales training piece, or is your pricing out of whack with the market? So we're kind of looking, like you said, but like top to bottom. And for us, we always start with the website traffic, because that's what our role is in the whole piece. So we want to make sure that like we're fulfilling that piece of it. So that's kind of like where I always start, is the website piece.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to both of them, we're looking at the same metrics as well. We lay leads over search trends as well, to be able to compare as well. And then the other piece as well is if you're running a campaign, if you're looking at the sources on your analytics, and comparing that year over year, month over month as well, to see if that campaign was impactful. And then, at a higher level too, just the return on investment for your marketing pieces too. If you see one start to slip into a negative, investigating why that's occurring as well.
Excellent point. We're talking kind of a little bit more on the problem solving side, right? Like trying to identify where things are going. Everyone's talking about inflation. Has your marketing been impacted by inflation? Is that why you're kind of auditing, more to see what those trends are like?
So I think we're always, and I feel like everybody on this call, we're probably always auditing to see what those trends are like and what's going on, whether inflation is involved or not. So I think that makes it easier for us to be able to pivot or notice those trends and have those conversations earlier on. So, I mean, for us, we've definitely seen an increase in costs from like a paid media standpoint, and what those costs per clicks are costing us, or the overall cost for a conversion. And then also just like softwares that we use, like getting those kind of general increases from different software companies that, we use on a regular basis to monitor and manage some of that. And so kind of figuring out how to manage those different pieces, but yeah, I think we've definitely seen those trends increase, that pricing increasing.
Yeah, to add to Christina, we saw from August to September, our cost per click on Google went up by 10% across all the stores that we have on Google Ads. So those costs are definitely rising. And I think one piece too, and I think it is part of inflation as well, is that the demand level. So Grace talked about the Google search trends. The demand levels are definitely decreasing. They're back to 2019 interest levels, which weren't bad, but they weren't the high that we saw in 2021, where if you looked at Google, the search interest trends are 0 to 100. They were at 100 for consecutive months in a row. And now we're starting to see them fall back to like that 60 level, which means, there's interest in storage is just not that high 100% we saw in 2021. So that, that's less demand for storage. So to get a piece of that pie, you need to spend more.
We were seeing very similar, as I shared in our pre-meeting, with next door self-storage.
Yeah, Holly, the only thing of value I'll add is just to reiterate what Christina is saying about our vendor cost is increasing. And I don't want to overlook that, because as the cost of operating is higher as operators, we know that too. And so as also the consumer of vendors, some of that cost is being passed down to us. And so yes, the cost of like actual Google spend because of a lower search volume, you have to pay more to compete a little higher for those terms. That's going up, but also just the hard cost of using some of these vendors. I'm seeing cost being increased as well there. And so if you're an owner and operator preparing for next year's budget, do not go in expecting the same expenses as you saw in 2022 or even 2021.
Do you have any tips for negotiating with vendors or providers on price increases?
I do. I'd love to hear from Christina and Melissa too.
Well, I know they can negotiate.
Yeah. The Southern Belle in me is actually not a great negotiator. It is just like, so I lean on performance and yeah. So what have we been tracking? What are the goals? And then if you achieve those goals, we can talk about an increase. Or what's the justified reason for the increase? And sometimes if I can just understand why, if it is truly you've doubled your workforce, then at least I understand. And so I'm not as upset by the increase. So I'm not a very strong negotiator. I probably need to take a couple extra classes on it. I lean into understanding why is the cost increasing, and if I can understand it, then it's justified. If I don't understand it, I'm gonna keep asking some questions regarding it.
Yeah, I think there are two different types of vendors that you need to look at, and it's the ones that are like truly just like the tech platforms that do not care, and they are just going to increase their prices, and you don't really have the opportunity to talk to anybody or even understand it. It's just like you're subscribing to this monthly service and it is what it is. And it might just be that you're on auto renew with a credit card and that's just the way the service is. And you can't really negotiate those. But then the other ones, like we had one recently that we use for like tracking SEO and like a lot of our site audits and search trends. And they came to us and were like, oh, you should upgrade to this new package. It'll be great. So we upgraded to it. Well, they also hid the fact that there were a number of other pieces within the software that like the number of sites we could have for site audits monthly was going to drop and all these things were going to drop. So I went back to them and I was like, look, I want the same level of service for this same price. And they actually met me. So it's just kind of understanding to ask those questions. And I don't mind paying more as long as the like level of service is going to stay the same. If I'm like adjusting a package or if like I need this one new feature, everything else that I had before needs to stay in place. So I think like Ray said, it's just asking the questions to understand and then, again, asking the questions to negotiate the price where you have the ability to do that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, making the ask, but then also remembering what value you're bringing to them as well. So if you've been able to bring value to them and maybe different ways that they've decided to restructure even their pieces, like Christina said, like you're going to give me this level of service in this package, and maybe they took that feedback. So remembering your power as well and what you provided to the vendor too.
I think also like as we move into next year and projected increases are coming, like prioritizing focus too, because a lot of the vendors that we use offer multiple products. And so maybe it's this decision that we are only going to focus on these two products and really maximize those things before we roll into more 6 months down the road.
Yeah, that's Excellent points, ladies. So we're talking about prices going up. I hear a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure if
Christina, I
someone,
think it's coming from you, girl.
have you, we know prices are going up. We're looking at budgets for next year. Are you increasing your target cost per acquisition with your operations teams? Are you planning on increasing that and for your reporting, or what is your strategy around that?
Yeah, I mean, just from August to September, I talked about our cost per click went up 10%. So we projected, I think, around a 25% increase as far as what our budgets are. So the cost per actions are going up. There's nothing, we can do. We're changing our strategy to be a lot smarter. Really looking at optimizing our ads more. And we were already doing this, but really taking a hard look at making sure, we're putting in negative keywords, positive keywords, and just auditing a lot more on our side to make sure that anything that we spend is getting the return of investment that we want, even though we can't control, the ad spend so much on Google when we're competing against other operators. We can just make sure we do a good job of ensuring our ads are optimized and getting that return.
And Melissa, do you have a different cost per acquisition target for lease-up properties versus high occupancy properties?
Yeah, with the lease-up, we're definitely projected to spend a little bit more. We might offer steeper discounts. We might utilize online aggregators a lot more in a more aggressive fashion to get that to a stabilized property. So definitely looking at higher cost to market those lease-up facilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no,
I would agree with that. Sorry for the background noise. My AC kicked on and that's what you're hearing. So I just asked the team to turn it off.
No problem. Do you have a hard time, explaining the difference in the cost per acquisition versus a lease-up property versus a highly occupied property with your operations team, or are they just everybody understands that that's what it costs?
We have a difficult time explaining the difference in strategies. And so in that, there's different costs per acquisitions. Like it's difficult it's not difficult. It's just a training because it's not like conceptually, it's not hard. It's just natively not known. Like Storables Marketplace has that cost per rental model. And so their cost per acquisition is naturally, in our case, and Melissa, I'd love your feedback, it's naturally lower than pay-per-click, which that cost per rental is a factor of our on-site team or whoever's answering the phone or the discounts that we're offering and how well have we optimized that individual ad. And so it's not difficult to grasp it once we talk that through with owners. It's just difficult, I think, to present like my strategy to the owners. And sometimes they ask, well, why aren't we putting all of our dollars into Sparefoot Marketplace because they have the lowest cost per rental. And so talking them through why I believe we should diversify strategy and why there's added benefits in addition to your cost per rental from PPC and all these different search campaigns and retargeting and display. And so talking through the reason or the why behind the strategy I've put together. Sometimes that can be a little convoluted.
I think also that spurred a thought too, is like when you're looking at lease ups, you're doing a lot more brand awareness campaign that you can't always tie to a rental. And that conversation is not always easy to have as well. Especially, the operations team wants to see, results versus your budget. But when you're doing a lease up, you're doing a lot more brand awareness, making yourself known in that community where you can't tie those to rentals as nicely as you can as far as a direct ad or Sparefoot, but some of like the social brand awareness is getting you awareness. You might just not see it right now. It's a long-term run on those.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kind of separating where those budgets are going and what the purpose is. So speaking of some of marketing campaign ideas, what are some low cost, high yield alternative marketing campaigns operators should consider?
Go ahead,
Go
Christina.
ahead.
So I think one of the lowest cost things that I always tell smaller operators, especially, to make sure that they're claiming and optimizing their Google business profile and focusing on the reputation management, because those are things that they can physically control themselves. And it's not something, yeah, there are tools out there that can help you with it and make it and take it to the next level. But if you're really looking for something that's going to give you a high yield, we're seeing a lot more traffic. And I know we talked about this in our like pre-call, that we're seeing a lot more traffic coming from like the local listings and from the Google business listings, even than from like your organic search. So being able to put some time, energy, and effort into that piece of it for those smaller operators is really going to get you a higher yield than, putting money into like a paid ad or, or something else where you're going to be spending significant dollars.
Great options.
Yeah, those are great points, Christina. Definitely. I mean, and you can do things too with setting up alerts on Google. So the ability to manage it as well, on a tighter budget is there too. You don't always need the software. When I wrote some notes about this, I was thinking, when we look at paid searches and we're looking at, low cost for that, Bing comes to mind. There's still search volume on Bing. Your Alexa devices are powered by Bing. You have the Microsoft Edge project coming on, computers and people natively just using that instead of downloading Chrome or Firefox. So the search volume's there, so you can get a lot of traction on Bing, and it's high. They convert very well for a lower cost than on Google. And then my other two thoughts were local marketing too. That's still, it's more time than actual money, but building those like really good, even if you build 5 really good referral relationships with like movers, real estate agents, that has a high return too, because you're going to be like their exclusive self-storage facility that they refer their clients to. So putting the time in there. And my third thought, and it's something new that we've been trying, and I've been talking about it for months, but influencer marketing. And so even you can do stuff like we did a paid TikTok influencer campaign, we did a paid YouTube, and we're doing a paid Instagram. And these were people that were using our facility. We paid them, very small comparatively to what you would pay Google, along with giving them a discount on their rent. And, we've yielded rentals from them. The other piece that we're doing too is if it's a good tenant relationship that has a business, we feature them on our blog. And then we just had a pizza shop then share that on their Instagram that had 16,000 followers. So just getting that exposure then too from that as well. So you can do like the low cost influencer marketing as well. And I think that has a high return. And as we look at search trends and search being moved more natively to apps such as Instagram and TikTok, those pieces as well. So, if you start them now, you'll start to see the return for a lower investment than if you would start later.
Yeah, I think the key there, Melissa, just to build off of what you were saying, is relationships. Like storage is still very much, you picked the storage unit because the location was convenient, but you knew somebody else who used it, or you read those reviews and you have that like sense of trust is what ultimately, like the security, we talk about security and location all the times, is why people pick your facility. And so building those relationships is going to be the lowest cost from a monetary cost. It is very costly in the relationship takes time and it takes consistency. And so I love what Melissa said, like focusing those efforts. It used to be 10 years ago, we had a marketing strategy that was just flood your market and like be a good neighbor to everyone. It didn't matter if it was the nail salon or the grocery store or the pet store down the street. Like if they were your neighbor, be a good neighbor. We've now, over the last decade, have really changed that strategy into, yes, still be a good neighbor, but which let me not negate the nail salon, the grocery store. We have flyers in all of those areas, but the relationships are focused, and the relationships are real estate agents. It is apartment complexes. It's funeral home directors. It's divorce attorneys or I almost said marriage attorneys. That's not a thing, but those, like, the industry is fueled by these life changes. And so let's be very strategic in our partnerships and our friendships with the individuals who interact with customers, either their customers or they interact with individuals who are going through those types of life changes. And so I love that idea of local marketing. But I think the other things that came to mind when I was chewing on this question, we also have tested Bing in the past. I'm sorry, not Bing. Melissa mentioned Bing. That's why it's top of mind. Groupon is what we've tested in the past. And it's a really low cost. You only pay Groupon if the individual actually redeems their vouchers, the phrase that they use. And so it's super low cost. I think it's a profit share, 50% of the purchase of the ticket gets shared with Groupon. And it was pretty easy to set up too. So that's something that owners could implement today. And that just same concept with Bing. It's another search site. The same concept Melissa was saying, it's a native app where people might be searching for storage. Just be aware it's a low search volume.
It's very low.
It's very low.
Very low.
You're not going to get, like, when we tested it, we deemed it successful because we got rentals, but we got like 3 rentals over 9 months. And so super low search traffic, but really low cost. And then the other thing that came to mind is Tommy at Storage Pugs talks about this all the time, but really using your Google profile, Google business profile, and maxing that sucker out, like making sure your service areas are mentioned on there, making sure your products, you've got pictures in your products. We've got the Google messaging now. That's an option. Q&A is an option. And so just using all of those components, because we are seeing like 75% of our website traffic is coming from those pages. And so it's just it has been a huge piece of the customer's journey. And so just making sure it's optimized well.
Can I just add? Oh, sorry. Can I just add on the Groupon, just from experience? Just make sure if you do one, like Grace said, she got rentals over 9 months, make sure that you can still withhold offering those specials, because usually they're pretty steep discounts across that time period as well, because it is a longer time period that you have to run those discounts. And sometimes if you're at a certain occupancy, you don't want to run them. So just a FYI, because we've had them happen.
Yeah, or just get in there. I think we were able to like add into the details, like valid for 30 days or something like that. And then at each month we decided keep it live or turn it off, keep it live, turn it off. But yeah, great point.
So that's an excellent segue into, have you noticed a difference how people are searching for self-storage? We've talked about TikTok and Groupon. What are some trends?
Yeah, I think Grace mentioned this, or maybe it was Christina, I'm sorry. More people are going into the map to search. So we're getting more clicks on our Google business profile. So, making sure Grace and Christina both touched on that, that's optimized. They're not going into the organic as much. They're just looking at the maps. And then, Instagram released the map feature too. So people are searching on maps. Right now it's a lot of restaurant searches, but monitoring that as it happens. And then more and more people are searching, on the TikTok app as well, for different things. Again, self-storage is not quite there, but the trend is that that search is moving from Google to these apps. So just something to be aware of.
Yeah. I think to add on to what Melissa said with the local piece and the content and how people are searching, Google's also changing its algorithm a lot. And just last month, I think they rolled out a new update where they're focusing more and more on that like high quality content. And so it's really changing what's showing up even in the search results for people, forcing them to change the way that they're searching for things and kind of moving into more of that like local market. And I want to say 6-ish months ago, Google did a Google Marketing Live, and they talked about a lot of trends that they've seen over the last couple of years and statistics that they have, and that searches for like near me and in stock have increased by like 90% since 2020.
Yeah, the other piece too, when you're talking about that is voice search too. So people aren't typing as much anymore. They're using, the phone or the Alexa or Google devices, and how you talk is way differently than how you type as well.
Mm-hmm.
So to Christina's point with your content, you need to make sure that it will be able to be found for a voice search or for a text search as well.
Yeah, and I think to that point, that zero placement is becoming more, I think it's becoming more important, because as a consumer, like I ask a simple question, I really am just looking for that quick answer at the top. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like Google says, I type in what's the best lock for my storage unit. There is an answer. Like Google crawls all of the pages that have that, and they determine that this article has this answer, and here it is, it's highlighted, it's bold. That's zero placement, unless it's called something else. I'm looking at Melissa and Christina in case that name's been changed with so many Google updates. But that I think is becoming really important, because that's what powers your voice search. That is the answer that gets reiterated to you in a voice search. So I think that's important. And then I actually had a question to Melissa and Christina. Holly, I'm sorry I'm jumping in here, but I'm just interested. I haven't even thought to look at this like from a trend perspective. And so I'm going to ask Melissa and Christina if they have. Are y'all saying like the search volume change from the different map applications? Like I know Google and Waze are the same owners, but they're two different platforms that have two different user groups. So are you seeing like Waze is being used more than Google and Apple Maps or any of the other native map products? Is there trends in volumes from each?
I haven't seen any like significant changes, I would say.
Google's still dominating the map space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like other things are being used more, but Google's still very much the dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I think, and that's a testament too, where Apple said that they were going to do their own reviews, and they have yet to roll it out. They're still using the Yelp reviews, and I think for them, they're still the volume's not there for them to roll that out by themselves.
That's a great point.
And can we all be grateful that Yelp is not as large of a influence on our marketing campaigns as it was, 5-10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Kind of rolling in, we talked about local. Is social media an effective tool without paying for ads? If so, what are a couple ideas the audience can take away?
So I think from a communication standpoint to like current customers, to things that are going on in your local market, to supporting other businesses, and kind of, again, going back to that like relationship piece, that's a great way to build relationships outside of having to be with people face to face and in person. So that, social media is a great tool to continue to build those relationships. Like Melissa was talking about the influencer marketing, that's a relationship piece. So there's absolutely, and now obviously some of what Melissa is doing is paid, but it's not paid like Google Ads is paid. So yes, for us, social media is an effective tool.
Yeah, to add on to Christina, like the most effective and the posts that get the most engagement are either about our tenants, about our staff, and then reels. So people love reels. Again, like it's that generation that likes video. So definitely if you can create a video, and you can do it pretty cheaply, using a tool like Canva, and just putting together, like we just put together one about book storage tips, and that got a lot of engagement as well. So kind of going off of some trends, relating them to storage and making them to quick videos. you're not going to get, you know, a direct rental from them, but you'll start to get your brand awareness out there.
I like it.
Yeah, the lists and the tips and the tricks and like people love that stuff to, you know, make their lives easier.
So if you only have time for one social media platform that you're going to focus on, which platform are you going to choose? I'm all about the icebreakers today, guys.
Ooh. I am very old school in my thinking here. We stick with Facebook. It's still the largest used for the demographic that we're targeting, although it is like Instagram's taking over some of that generations. TikTok is definitely rapidly growing, but I still feel like Facebook is the Google of the social platforms. And so for all of the reasons that Christina said, like whenever we have a hurricane that comes through, we push through updates to Facebook because we have a high level of confidence that our users who are current customers have Facebook pages. And so they can go on Facebook to see the live updates and in real time happenings, not live videos. Don't hear me say that, but it's the postings, who to call, where to get the information. Emails were sent out this day, that kind of stuff. So I am of the opinion you should have a Facebook page. I also think Facebook holds a lot of clout with Google. So from an SEO perspective too, I think that there is a lot of value in having a Facebook page that is claimed because it has reviews. We talk about the importance of reviews. I think it's important to have your page claimed so that if somebody is going to talk about you on Facebook, you have told them where to go. Otherwise, they're going to create a page for you, and that's just a cluster. And so I'm of the Facebook perspective. I will also be the first to tell you I am not hip. Like I am not hip.
Oh, Grace, you're cool. Give yourself more credit.
Well, thank you. I think I'm cool, but I'm not hip. And so I'm very interested to see what Melissa and Christina have to say, if there's any like better return on non-ads, better return on engagement or awareness, just because we don't see a whole lot on Instagram and we're not on TikTok.
It's a great question. I see Beth posted. We're going to get questions here in about a little under 10 minutes. Christina, what is your choice?
So I would agree with Grace in that, like, Facebook, if you're only going to focus on one, that's where I'd focus. But with a small caveat that because Facebook and Instagram are linked so easily together, you can post on one and post on the other at the exact same time. So being able to use some of the tools that are out there that allow you to post to multiple platforms at the same time is really where I put our energy, because it allows us to hit more marketing, more social channels, with the same amount of effort that it takes to hit one social channel. And so a lot of those tools are now coming out with the ability to push out reels from that software without having to log into Instagram to push out that reel. And so because of that, you can have one login that can push out to every social media channel that you want to be on, including TikTok. So that's where I would put the energy, is more not necessarily focusing on one social channel, but picking that tool that's going to work to be able to push your message out to multiple channels.
Oh, yeah, Melissa.
I agree. The one that I was going to say too, and I thought you were going to say this, Christina, is that things that you push out on social media, when you use a tool like Christina mentioned, you can do it on your Google page as well. And I would make sure that that's enabled. So that way your Google business profile is getting another signal, and you're getting another signal to Google that you're real. And then all of them too, if you have them, just make sure that you're monitoring them, because you can turn on messages, and not answering messages is the quickest way to get any of your profiles shut down by the platform. So just make sure, you're not, if you're doing one and you're sticking with one, just answer those messages and make sure that they're enabled. But if you're going to use a tool like Christina is saying, just make sure that you can monitor all aspects of your profile, not just pushing content, but being able to answer comments and messages as well.
Great point.
Really great point, ladies. I'm just glad that none of us are on Twitter, I guess. I mean, we push, but don't really see a lot from it. Okay, so kind of you hinted a little bit for a tool. So we've got about 4 more minutes before we do a Q&A. But what are the top tools or vendors the audience needs today? They'll make their lives easier.
A top-in-class website provider. I mean, I think that that definitely is something that has to be high performing, especially in this age of lower search traffic. Like, I can't drive home the fact that your website has got to be performing well. I can't drive that home enough. And so if you're not engaged in regular conversations, meaning like I talk to my website provider once a week. If you're not talking to them once a month, if not even more than that, oh my gosh, like that I think is somebody, it seems so rudimentary, but we're still taking over properties. They don't have a integrated website, meaning their website's not showing units and unit pricing in real time. And so I'm gonna keep repeating that. That's a tool that you've got to have.
I think Christina will agree with you.
I think also, Grace, when you're talking about managing that vendor relationship and having that great relationship, I think having Google Analytics so you can tell how it's working and being able to manage that relationship as well would definitely be impactful. If you're choosing like one tool and it's free, is Google Analytics.
How are we feeling about Google Analytics 4, ladies? Are we ready?
You're gonna have to be.
We're ready.
Get rid of the other ones too.
I think you're not, yeah.
June 2023. So hopefully we'll be able to, when it's time to make that switch, have you ladies come back and help us.
They're already targeting like Google Ads accounts that have not transitioned to and docking you optimization points.
Yeah.
So
oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Block the rest of my day.
Redoing all of it to like, they're like, oh, you can increase by 10% if you change to Google Analytics 4, just trying to like force everybody into it.
Wow.
So
a little shady, but okay. Thanks for the tip.
All right, I'm done. I gave you my
yeah. There's your CPA. Look, no additional cost now. We just saved you.
All right. What are some other like new tools?
New tools. So we use a number of like different keyword tracking tools, and some of them are free. So like if you want to do your own kind of recognizance on search trends, so like there's a plugin that you can use called Keyword Everywhere that works with Chrome. Uber Suggest is another one, SpyFu. All three of those are free. And then we use another tool called SEMrush that is not free. And all of the other ones have a paid version, but they have a free version too that you can get like some information out of it. But I really like Melissa's point about Google Analytics. You should really make sure that you have access to those accounts, that you can see what's going on in those accounts. And even if you don't understand it, you can still ask questions about it. So
good, very good point. Melissa, you have anything that you want to? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was just reading the chat
too. Like we're getting data from everywhere, right? So like we're getting data from our reputation, so from our reviews, and you're able to now put that in sentiments. So I think if you have a Power BI or a Tableau or an access to that, a lot of times that's like operations finance, but think of ways that you can use it for your marketing data as well, and then start to do some predictive modeling. So you can start to look at do you have a higher cost per rental if your review rating is lower? And start to look and correlate those things and then make decisions based upon that as well as where you should spend your time and money.
Awesome. Great. All right. So I think it's 2:45 now. So we're going to roll into questions here. Feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to answer. This question is from Brenda. We're in the process of acquiring land in Florida, about to buy land for indoor RV boat storage. Thoughts on budget amounts going forward? Also, business loan amounts are rising fast.
are rising fast. Yes. Does she say at all like the size or the where in Florida that could help with budget recommendations?
Brenda, if you're still on, if you could update with the size and location, they might be able to give you some more feedback.
Yeah, so like Grace said, it depends on your size and where you are in Florida, but I just did a projection and I helped with a projection for one that we're looking at. And I think we did like 1,200 to 1,500 a month, especially if you're starting brand new. It's probably a healthy budget.
Is that just on a search campaign?
That's just on your SEO. And then if you look at the online aggregators, probably looking there, probably 500 to 800
a month.
Yeah, so you're looking around $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, even if it's not another way you can look at it is like percentage of revenue. So if like your projected revenue is, 20, 40, 50 grand a month, whatever that is, like a 4-ish% of revenue is a good kind of like baseline to kind of start you with. Until you can really dig in to figure out what each line item is going to cost you.
Yeah, I think the national average is like 3.6% is that expense ratio. I would definitely go in thinking that you're going to be aggressive with all of the marketing campaigns that we've talked about. And so if we were like doing a one-on-one and I told you what I would think to turn on first, second, third, I start with Sparefoot or the storable marketplace because it does have the lowest return on investment. I would also look at PPC search and you can find a vendor to help you manage that. You've got one on the call. There's a wonderful marketing consulting agency on the call who can recommend a budget for your area and your competition and just all those components that go into PPC search budget. And then after that, I mean, you start adding some of those additional advertising or additional conversion campaigns, like maybe also adding retargeting and display through PPC. Melissa talked about adding in Bing. And so it does add up. And so for some of our new builds, their advertising budget will be like, I mean, this is going to shock a lot of us, but it'll add up to like $10,000 a month. And you do that for 4 months, and then you drop off the awareness campaigns. And then you continue on with some of those high yield campaigns for the next 6 months. And then once you hit occupancy percentages, you can scale back. That would be my strategy or recommended strategy.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was very, very helpful. This is kind of going to parlay into the next one. Stephen wants to know, is Sparefoot still a good way to spend marketing dollars?
It is.
It is. Like Grace said, it has a really good return on investment. But I will say with anything, you need to manage it as well. So for instance, during college move-in season, we take all of our smaller units off of Sparefoot because we're going to get those rentals anyway. Why pay Sparefoot for them? We also don't do ads on Google for targeting those smaller units as well. So just managing it like you would any other vendor, and you'll get a great return on investment.
Beth wants to know what kind of conversion rates or cost per acquisition are you guys seeing from social? Are the ROAS justified? And ROAS is return on ad spend for those who aren't sure what.
Leave it to Beth to give a very detailed question. Let me pull up some data for you, Beth. Go ahead, Christina.
So we don't do a ton of paid ads on social. We use it more as like the brand awareness piece of it. So I can't really talk to what the return on investment would be there, because again, it's that piece that Melissa was talking about earlier that's really hard to put a dollar amount behind unless we were truly running ads to drive rentals. And that's not really how we use social. If we're going to spend the money to drive rentals, we're going to put it into pay-per-click until we really exhaust that channel. And then we're going to look at, Bing or other things. So from a return on investment standpoint, I can't really give a great response there. So, I mean, maybe Melissa or Grace, if they're actually running like the paid ads for that.
I see them looking in their databases right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the latest. The reason I have to look back is we turned off. So we were using Facebook and Instagram because we already talked about how they're connected. We were doing, I'm trying to remember the type of ad it was. It was like the traditional paid ads on Facebook. What I cannot recall.
Boosting
it was
boosting,
not,
just like boosting a post.
It was not boosting a post. No, it was just the traditional advertising through
the
Facebook.
lead ads.
Maybe it was lead ads. Again, I'd have to look back at it. Excuse me. But we turned them off because we were trying to move those dollars into more yielding campaigns, and just decided at the time that was the strategy we needed for all of our properties. We have not tested boosted posts, which is in our roadmap to test, because I've heard it is able to produce more, like a higher yield. And so we've not tested those yet, but I'm super eager to start testing those once we get some properties who meet those criteria. So I'm going to continue looking off on the other side to see if I can get some of the data from earlier this year.
Great. And Jess Johnson says boosted ads always produced a higher yield for us. Same here. And we've talked previously about the privacy changes that Apple has done, which has made, and Facebook too, which has made them a little bit harder on the lead ads. I apologize if I'm saying this wrong. Sina is asking, how do you break down your lead, phone, emails, etc., measurement by location and source channels without impacting SEO and name, phone, address consistency? Is that me? I think that's a DNI question. Yeah, I think that's
I don't know what DNI.
Dynamic number insertion. But
Gotcha.
So how we do it, I can just talk, is we partnered with our website provider to be able to get those sources in. So you can use like a tool, even like Tag Manager on Google, and pull those sources in so you can at least get the last click to your website.
So it's a schema. And I'm sure Christina can talk more on this, but basically it's a code that you're telling Google that this is the actual physical location, phone number, and then in order to track these different sources, you can use these tracking numbers, but you're telling Google what's the physical location's phone number, as well as what is the call tracking. Do you have an online reservation or rental system to recommend?
Okay.
What was the question? I'm sorry. I found our social media ads. If we could just put a little pin on that, or a bow on that.
Yeah.
Our social ads were returning less than 0.4% return on investment. So we turned them off, which is why going back to the boat and RV, social's like the last thing we add. Sorry.
Yep. Nope.
I was working hard for that answer.
I love it. All right. And then go ahead, Melissa.
The rental system. Sorry, that was the question.
Yep.
I mean, Christina has her own firm here that has a system too, but and your website provider should be able to use that as well. We personally use the storage group and developed with they've developed click and store and able to mold it to our operational model as well. So I would just suggest any online rental tool that you use, just make sure that it fits how your operational model is. So there might be things that you need in your rental process that isn't an out of the box solution. So just make sure it matches that piece as well.
Very wonderful point.
Yeah.
And great. I know, Christina, you do online rentals too, and Grace, do you guys do online rentals as well?
Yeah, and to Melissa's point, we when we were building it out with our website provider, we built in safeguards into our point of sale system too. And so they complete this work order or this task, and that triggers settings that then show up online, and training through that, because it's a update to your current process when you move from just offering in office or over the phone rentals to then online rentals. Training, like, get your HR team involved and train team members
and your legal team.
That whole Melissa was saying earlier, make sure you're communicating with every piece of the business when you're making a change. That's one of those ones that like you don't want to just make the change on your website and not communicate it out to the rest of your team and tell the managers how that process works, you know, and what information is coming through. So, but yeah, making sure that it can be tailored to your operational processes. If there are specific questions that you need to have asked during that process that, you know, another operator might not use. We have people that still ask for social security numbers, and people that don't. And so being able to add and remove those fields as needed. So you're also not asking for things that are irrelevant to your process.
Great points.
I think it too, just the last comment on that, it too needs to be a living and breathing process. So as whoever is providing you this service, they should be telling you when your drop off, like where your biggest drop off is, and trying to reduce that drop off rate, because the purpose of it is to provide online rentals. And so you want that to be a tool that's actually used. And so regularly reviewing the performance from the tool is going to be important for its success.
Awesome. And it looks like the final question, are you guys using website live chat?
So we're building our, oh, sorry.
No,
we're building our own tool.
Yep.
We're building our own tool that has AI first. So it has the artificial intelligence, which answers, we took like messages we get to Google, frequently asked questions through our call center now, and put those into an IVF. So it has the answers to those right away that they can ask, and then it can escalate to a live person if necessary.
Yeah, there's quite a few different ways that you can do it. There, you can partner with a third-party call center to answer them for you. You can do AI. You can do some combination too. There's plugins that you can use with your website as well that you can log in and just have the status when you're available. But kind of also to Melissa's question, Melissa's point that she made earlier, that if you are going to have something available, make sure someone's manning it, or you have the AI, you know, available to put them to, you know, the right places at the right time. So. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, ladies, for everything. If you have any other questions, like I said, the recording is going to be coming out. We'll have everyone's contact information. Please feel free to contact the presenters, as well as reach out to them on LinkedIn. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Thanks, CallPotential.
Thank you so much, ladies.